On Larry King Now, Jack Osbourne, the outspoken reality star, opens up about his life-changing diagnosis.
Up until that point, I was like, great, I'm in good health, I'm young, I'm unstoppable. And then it just was like a ton of bricks just getting dropped on me.
On becoming a father.
This morning we had a success story. She peed in the potty. You know?
Oh, that's a big day.
Yep.
On how he transformed his look and his life.
You know, for me, it's never truly defeated. You know, I always say, you know, my addiction's just in the closet doing push-ups.
Plus,
you are who you are. Like everyone, you know, you see these people on TV, oh, I was edited wrong, I was edited wrong. If you're a dick, you're gonna come across as a dick. If you're a nice person, you're gonna come across as a nice person.
all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Today's special guest is Jack Osbourne. Born into a rock and roll family, he's the son of the legendary rocker Ozzy Osbourne and his wife Sharon. A few years ago, he was given a life-changing diagnosis when he learned he had multiple sclerosis, and since then, he's become an advocate of MS awareness. And his new website is youdon'tknowjackabouts.com. He also has a production company, Sweet. Your mother is famous for saying whatever comes to her head. So's your dad. What about you?
I think I hold a bit of restraint. You know, I think being able to just speak whatever you want is a good thing, but also has its backlash.
It does. How's your sister doing?
She's doing very well. Yeah, very well. She's hanging in there.
She's a great girl.
She is indeed.
You're all very close, right?
Yeah. We spend a lot of time together.
MS. What was the first sign?
I guess the first sign was probably occurred about 18 months before I had my diagnosis.
How long ago?
My diagnosis was in May of 2012, so 18 months prior to that, I was...
How old?
I was 24, 23.
What sign?
My legs went numb for about 3 or 4 months. I thought I'd pinched a nerve in my back and...
Both legs?
Both legs. I just thought nothing. I was like, it's probably something to do with my back.
By numb, you couldn't walk?
No, I could walk. I just... I couldn't feel them very well. They just felt like dough is the only way to read. They felt doughy, and when I had contact with anything hot or cold, it was the opposite sensation. So hot things felt freezing cold, and cold things felt burning hot.
How was the diagnosis done? What do they test you for?
Well, what prompted me to go to the doctor is that I suffered from optic neuritis, which was inflammation of the optic nerve in my right eye, and I went basically blind. I lost 100% of my central vision and I could only see about 15% of my peripheral vision. And I went to the doctor thinking it was an eye problem because it was in my eye, and then the eye doctor sent me to the emergency room where I had an MRI done, and they noticed lesions in my brain, and that prompted the neurologist to step in and conduct all sorts of tests, and then came to the conclusion of multiple sclerosis.
What was it like when they told you?
It was... I felt a level of defeat because you go through life feeling up until that point I was like, great, I'm in good health, I'm young, I'm unstoppable, and then it just was like a ton of bricks just getting dropped on me, and so I felt deflated because my daughter had been born 3 weeks prior, I was engaged, to my now wife, and I felt like things were going so well. And then all of a sudden, you just get knocked down. And I was just like, oh, man, like, what does this mean? Because I didn't know anything about it.
The biggest fear at first is that it's a precursor to Lou Gehrig's disease, right? Lou Gehrig's disease is the ultimate MS, isn't it?
No, I didn't know any of that. For me, I just thought it was a precursor because, my only knowledge of MS was, the story about Richard Pryor. That was what I commonly associated with, and he had a very aggressive form of MS. And unfortunately, he lost the battle to it. And so for me, that's where my mind instantly went. I was like, game over. I'm not going to be mobile. And it just, there was a lot of misconceptions that I had.
Do you ever think, why me?
Of course. And then there's the why me positive, and then there's the why me negative. I look at it like, maybe this happened because, there's a bigger plan at play here, and
I've heard that you adapt and overcome. Is that your motto?
Yep, adapt and overcome, very much so.
And you also want to change the way people think and act about MS. obviously having a website that says you don't know jack about MS. Well, what do we know, and what is our perception?
For me, when I did research into what MS was, the most common perception was that it occurred in women in their 40s. And that's just not the case. I mean, the youngest diagnosis of multiple sclerosis was a 3-year-old child. And so people think it's a disease of age, and then the automatic perception is, oh, you become immobile, you're no longer able to function at a level the same as everyone else, and that's just not the case. There are amazing treatments out there. There's, in the last 10 years alone, there are close to, I think, 10 treatments now available to people with MS in its varying stages.
How many do you take?
I'm on one. I do a daily injection. And touch wood, last it'll be 2 years in May since I've had a severe exasperation. So,
What is the most common thing that occurs to you?
The most common thing that I feel is tingling in the legs or like shooting pains. It's like nerve pain, because that's essentially what it attacks the nerves.
I've had some friends who have it, and they say the worst thing about it is depression.
Yeah, I have noticed that. I do have these little bouts of depression, and I just try and fight through it the best I can, and it is a common problem.
What do people learn when they go to your site?
I think people will learn that there's a lot of resources on the site. There's a lot of information just about the who, what, when, where, how of multiple sclerosis, and then I put together these little docu-series, mini reality episodes, if you will, of just kind of my life now with MS. And there's everything from man on the street interviews with people to following me to my doctor's appointment to seeing kind of my daily routine and things like that.
How often you go to the doctor?
I go about once every 6 months unless there's something going on.
Do you fear your daughter getting it?
It's definitely a something that popped into my head because there's a little bit of data proving that it is hereditary. My uncle, he has it. But they say it's about 5% of cases there's signs of any hereditary, connection.
Does it lead to less of a length of life?
Supposedly, it can reduce your life expectancy by about 10 years, but that's very there's not a lot of that's more speculation, I think, than anything.
Coming up, more with Jack. Stay with us. We're back with Jack Osbourne. We're talking about MS, his website, and lots of other things to get into as we go. How did you finally take control of this?
I adopted the motto, adapt and overcome. I was like, all right, this is what's in front of me. I need to figure out how I can work with this and obviously live with it as a part of my life, but still function the way I want to. And so I did research into medication, and I found a medication that, was, for me, made the most sense. And then I started adjusting components of my life to help. Low stress, they tell you when you get diagnosed, minimize stress, get a lot of extra sleep, and eat right. It's kind of the recipe for everyone. And so
What do you do for a living?
Well, I have a TV production company, and I host a couple TV shows. So, I'm busier than ever, but I feel better about it.
You changed your lifestyle a lot. We're going to put up a picture of early Jack Osbourne. There's Jack Osbourne.
That's a bad.
When was that?
That was probably when I was about 17 years old, so 11 years ago.
You lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Did MS motivate you to do that?
No. This was I'd been sober about 18 months. I think this was right when I got sober. That picture. I'd been sober about 18 months.
What were you addicted to?
I had a pretty bad addiction to alcohol and pharmaceuticals. So
Runs in the family, that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, addiction does. So
what's the biggest misconception about MS?
I think the biggest misconception is that you're most of the time confined to a wheelchair. I think that was my personal.
That's usually the end case, isn't it?
That's people in severe, late stages, of multiple sclerosis.
What happened to Stars Earn Stripes? Were you fired from that show? Sharon hates NBC. Give me the story.
Okay, the story with that was I had just been diagnosed with MS. We hadn't told anyone. We hadn't done it, anything. And I got a phone call to participate in a show on NBC. And I went in.
What was the show?
The show was Stars Earn Stripes.
Which is?
Which was a reality show where they took celebrities and paired them up with members of the armed forces, and you went to a very it's kind of SWAT challenges and things like that. And I met with NBC. I was the first person to say I'm in, and I told them in the room, I was like, hey, listen, I just got diagnosed with MS. Is this going to be a problem? They said, absolutely not. We're behind you on this. I received an email shortly after saying, welcome to the NBC family. And as things progressed, they started to kind of pull back. All the while, my contract had been negotiated. I had a signable copy ready to go. And then last minute, they turned around and said, no, you're not on the show.
Because?
Because you're too much of a liability with multiple sclerosis, and we feel because it was live fire, actually shooting real weapons. One of their concerns was that they felt that I could mishandle a firearm and accidentally shoot someone.
Was that understandable or not understandable?
From my perspective, completely not understandable. I was fully able-bodied, and that was why I got so upset, was because there was the misconception.
Did you sue?
No, I didn't feel the need to.
Your mother quit a show because of it, though, right?
There was many reasons why she quit NBC. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, though.
Was there a villain at NBC?
Was there I don't think there was any one person that was the.
Did it go high up the ladder?
It went very high up the ladder. It was
Who was running NBC at the time?
Greenblatt.
Greenblatt,
yeah.
Are you bitter?
No, I'm not bitter, because at the end, listen, I work in TV, I work in production, I understand the issue with insurance, but what I was upset about was the way that they handled it. Instead of sitting me down and being like, hey, listen, we'd love you to be a part of this, we don't think it's right now, it was like this dismissive, like.
Gotta bug you, though.
Yeah, it did. It's like, because I was all of a sudden I was being typecast as a disabled person.
What happened on Dancing with the Stars?
Dancing with the Stars was awesome.
Finished third, right?
Finished third, indeed. And it was.
You had no problem handling that.
No problem handling that, and it was a much more grueling schedule.
What's it like being a father?
Being a father is the greatest gift.
How old is she now?
My daughter will be 2 in April, and it is the best. I mean, this morning we had a success story. She peed in the potty. Very, very successful times. So it's good,
Oh, that's a big day.
Yep, yeah. It's things like that which I get excited about.
Big deal, changing from partying to changing diapers.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was quite an adjustment. But my wife is an amazing person, and she is, I just feel so fortunate that I met her at a nightclub. So.
Is Kelly a good aunt?
Kelly is a good aunt. When Kelly isn't juggling 900 things, and when you can get Kelly in one place, she's a great aunt.
About Sharon as a grandmother?
She's mom and dad. It was funny.
Are they doting?
Oh yeah, I mean they will do anything for Pearl. She's got them wrapped around her finger. The other morning I was out of town and my wife was staying at my parents' house, and she woke up and she goes, "Papa, please." That was the first thing. She wanted to go see my dad, so they get along very well.
Was Ozzy a great guy growing up?
My dad was, there were some amazing qualities about my dad, and then there was some obviously the obvious, not so great qualities. But I'm not one of these people that ever thought anything my dad did was horribly bad. My dad is my dad, and
he's a great grandfather.
He is an amazing grandfather.
Coming up, Jack talks about overcoming addiction and the show that made his family famous. Stay with us. We're back with Jack Osbourne. We'll talk about Sweet as well in a while. But first, Philip Seymour Hoffman just died of an overdose, parent drug overdose. You've dealt with addiction. Mm-hmm. What was your reaction to that story?
It's so sad. I mean, anytime that you hear about anyone dying of an overdose, it's so sad because it's something that could have been avoided, and it shouldn't happen, but it does. That's the nature of disease of addiction. It holds no prejudice. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how poor you are. It's the ultimate equalizer.
I asked the great actor Richard Dreyfuss, who had a problem, why would successful people need an escape? And he said, I don't know. I just know they do.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that? Like,
absolutely.
You're in a famous family.
Yeah.
You have a lot going for you. Why did you need it?
It's, you know, the fame game is a prickly beast. You know, it has these amazing components to it, and it has, you know, the perks are amazing, but there are downsides to it, and you know, at the time, you know, when I was a teenager, I wasn't prepared to deal with those downsides, and I turned to alcohol and drugs to help me, because that was the only thing that kind of made the pain kind of subside.
You think you inherited some of it from your dad?
Absolutely, you know.
It is inherited.
I'm 100% believer that addiction is, you know,
Does
hereditary.
he have guilt over that?
I think there was a time that he had guilt over it. I don't think he does necessarily anymore, but I know for a time he did.
How did you defeat it?
You know, for me, it's never truly defeated. You know, I always say, you know, my addiction's just in the closet doing push-ups. The moment I pick up a drug or, you know, take a drink, I don't think it's going to be.
How long are you sober?
It'll be 11 years in April.
You ever worry about relapsing?
No, but I like to maintain a, you know, strong and active role in recovery, and you know, and I feel that's.
All right, at age 17, your family becomes the first celebrity family in, I guess, reality TV, right? You put yourself in that position. Looking back, good or bad?
Looking back, amazing. It was something that was I never anticipated. I never saw my life going down that road. You know, my goal was either I was going to work for a record company or I was going to join the military. That's what I wanted to do. And it opened up a world to me which I never, ever would have thought would have happened.
No resentful?
No, there was a time. You know, there was shortly after the Osbournes when things were, you know, still very intense. I was resentful at it.
Did the family get closer?
No, actually. It pushed us apart for a while, and it took a minute for things to kind of, you know, the wagons to circle again.
You said once that there was the Jack Osbourne my parents knew, the Jack Osbourne my friends knew, and the Jack Osbourne the public knew. What were the differences?
Well, you know, the Jack Osbourne my parents knew was still their little boy. The Jack Osbourne my friends knew was the guy doing a lot of drugs and partying. And the Jack Osbourne the public knew was this strange kind of, you know, mixture of both with a bit of, you know, insanity.
You talked about being dyslexic. Does that still affect you?
I think it does in some ways. You know, but I just... fortunately, you know, I've landed in a place where I work with it instead of against it. I went to a school for a long time to help me, you know, function to a degree with dyslexia. I
gather, just from sitting here with you, you're in a good place now.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a really good
Daughter
place.
Helps.
Absolutely, you know, family for me is paramount. You know.
What is Sweet?
Sweet is is a company I started with two friends of mine. It's a television production company, and we've been producing TV shows now for going on two years.
What kind of shows?
Reality-based shows. We had a show on Nat Geo, Wild, which was following guys that train dogs for the military and police. We sold a pilot to Nat Geo after that, and now we've just got a bunch of other pilots.
How's the website doing?
The website is doing very well. It's getting a lot of traffic, and it all seems to be pretty positive.
How do people know to go to it?
You can Google search it. You know, you don't know Jack about MS, or you know, on my Twitter or anything like that. You can find.
So you're keeping constantly busy.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I rarely have a day off.
Do you ever miss what was Limelight?
Not really, because I still, you know, I host a show on Fuse. You know, I had a show on Sci-Fi, so it's, you know, it's just not what it used to be, and I like that. You know, back when we did the Osbournes, it was madness, and you know, I like privacy. I like, you know, having control a little bit more of what people see and how they see it.
Sharon was with us recently. The parents split for a little while.
Yeah, that was a bit of a rocky moment.
How were you handling that?
You know, ultimately, my parents' relationship is their business. You know, as a son, you know, of course, I'm affected by what happens, but I just turn around. I was like, listen, whatever you guys do, I'm going to support you both individually, as long as you guys are in the right headspace when making that decision. And so it was tough, though. It was a strange concept for me, because you start thinking about, well, what happens now? What happens at Christmas? What happens at birthdays? Like, does that mean, you know, my mom is going to be dating a new guy? Like, what, is my dad going to be dating? It was just like the weirdest thing to me. But, you know, I'm glad that they were able to, resolve whatever is it they needed to resolve.
What's the Osbournes like when you're all together?
When we're all together, usually it's just a lot
You're
of...
the one with the baby, right?
Yeah, I'm the one with the baby. So usually most attention is focused on the baby. We try to get together at least every Sunday for lunch, and we hang out for a bit.
Doesn't Ozzy go back to England a lot?
He does, but right now he's not touring, so he's at home. My mom and dad usually like to be wherever one or the other is. So if my mom's in England, he'll go.
What do you think of your dad's music?
I'm a big Sabbath fan. I love Black Sabbath.
How would you describe that music?
Black Sabbath, people think heavy metal, but it is heavy metal. But it's more bluesy though. You listen to it and it's very blues inspired hard rock, and it's good stuff.
Jack, we'll answer your questions and play a game of If You Only Knew when we come back. Don't go away. We're back with Jack Osbourne. We have some social media questions. Odd Meg tweets, for those newly diagnosed with MS, best advice you would give?
Best advice I would give is don't go too deep into the internet. The internet can be an amazing place for information, but it can also take you down some really strange roads. So I would say, take things slowly and don't go too deep.
Listen to your doctor.
Listen, and absolutely, well, of course, first and foremost, listen to your doctor.
Go to your website?
Yeah, you can go to my website too.
Kyle Shelton of Facebook wrote, I really loved you on Dancing with the Stars. Did you teach your wife how to dance after the show, and do you still dance?
The last thing I wanted to do after the show was dance for a little bit. I don't know. I would joke around with my wife, but I didn't really get too deep into teaching her. But I would like to still keep dancing. It's fun.
It's rigorous, though. For that show is crazy. They asked me to do it like 10 years ago. Screw that. You can bleep that word out. I wouldn't do that.
It's definitely
You can tell I've become relaxed on this show, folks.
Yeah, I definitely thought the same at first, but I just thought, why not? See what happens.
No regrets over that.
No, I had an amazing experience.
Cody Joe Brown of Facebook, do you feel like there was too much editing or that you were all portrayed in ways that were fair or accurate on the reality show?
One thing I've learned about reality TV is that you are who you are. Like everyone, you see these people on TV, I was edited wrong, If you're a dick, you're gonna come across as a dick. If you're a nice person, you're gonna come across as a nice person. I was a crazy 16-year-old kid who had an awful lot of angst, leeway, and access to a lot of substances most teenagers don't have.
So you weren't edited wrong. You were right.
I was a bratty, crazy kid.
We'd like to end the show with a game called If You Only Knew. Just play. You remember your first kiss?
First kiss. I think it was one of my sister's friends at our house in England.
How old were you?
I think I was maybe 11.
You remember her name?
I don't.
Oh my God. Yeah. Most embarrassing moment?
Most embarrassing moment, probably 2001 to about 2004 when we did the Osbournes.
The whole show?
Just that whole 3-year span.
Something no one knows about you?
Something no one knows about me. Let's see. I don't know.
With that reality show, they know everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of people know about me.
All right, person you most look up to?
Person I most look up to, probably my mom.
Favorite food?
Favorite food, Italian.
Best part about fatherhood?
The excitement of milestones with a baby.
Yeah, and they come often.
Yes, they do.
Pet peeve?
Pet peeve, I hate picky eaters. People that complain about food, people that send food back.
Oh, I would never send food back.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Still working in TV to some capacity, something like that.
Favorite curse word? Maybe I just said it.
Favorite? Yeah, I think Larry got that one covered.
Person you'd like to model your career after?
Probably. I don't know. Probably you. You got a pretty good run, Larry.
Had a pretty good run. Thank you for that. If you were 3 words to describe yourself?
Not quite sure.
Great line. If you were stranded on a desert island, what are the 3 things you couldn't live without?
I would bring one of those wind-up radios, so you could still hear what's going on in the world. A definitely would need a pocket knife. Bear Grylls has taught us that. And maybe, let's see, Italian food.
Funniest person you know?
Funniest person I know would probably my best friend. My best friend Jamie. We do.
He's funny?
Oh, he's so funny. We just most of the time we spend together. He was the best man at my wedding. I've known him since I was 3 years old.
Person you'd most like to meet?
Person I'd most like to meet. I would have past or present or still current.
Anything.
I would have liked to have had a cup of coffee with Jefferson.
Not bad.
Yeah.
As you look at yourself, do you ever say, I had too much too soon?
Absolutely, 100%. You know, it's something I definitely recognize. However, I don't resent that because I got through it, and I think if I hadn't experienced what I experienced at a young age, I don't think I'd be where I am now.
How did you feel when your mother stood up to NBC for you?
It was, you know...
She got rough on them.
My mom did get rough on NBC.
Still does.
Yeah. She's not too fond of the camp over there. You know, it was... at the time, I was like, yeah, you know, and then I was like, hey, you know what? It doesn't have... You know, my mom is very outspoken. She loves to just be like, this is what I'm thinking, and I'm going to let you know about it. I thought things could have been handled better on both sides. I thought NBC could have handled things better, and I thought, you know, our side could have handled things better.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you very much, Larry. Appreciate it.
Thanks to my guest, Jack Osbourne, and check out his website, You Don't Know Jack About MS. And you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.